Hi there. I'm Tom Field. I'm Senior Vice President of Editorial with Information Security Media Group. My topic today is your security stack ready for the modern cloud. Really pleased to welcome to the virtual studio Knox Anderson. He's VP of Products with Sysdig. Knox, thanks so much for taking time to speak with me today.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
So we talk a lot about digital transformation, maybe not enough about its impacts. How would you say the past year with mass cloud adoption and the shift left movement most impacted cybersecurity?
Well, I think the past year really sped it up a lot. It's been really interesting to see the RFPs that we got for securing container and Kubernetes environments. And at the beginning of 2020, people were talking about, hey, I've got 100, 200 hosts running in the cloud with Kubernetes. Now we're seeing thousands and thousands of hosts be in scope of that environment. So I really think it pushed the Kubernetes clock forward 2 or 3 different years. It's also really impacted the secure DevOps approach that organizations need to take, where security is really getting baked into the DevOps lifecycle. As more distributed teams are deploying apps into Kubernetes, they need to shift security left, make sure that their operations team knows the controls that need to put in place in the cluster, and really have more automation and GitOps processes around implementing security in these container and Kubernetes environments.
Knox, what do you see security leaders critically overlooking or maybe even misunderstanding as they make these shifts?
The power of open source. I think the future of security is 100% built on open source. As people adopt Kubernetes, the thing that's really powerful there is it's a standard for how you are deploying your applications across any cloud environment. So now that your orchestration and your network and everything is built on open source, security really needs to fit in there as well. So Sysdig ourselves, we're very active in the open source community. We built Falco, which is a runtime detection engine that's part of the CNCF. As we're moving to also cover more cloud security use cases, we've embedded things like Cloud Custodian that was built at Capital One, is also a CNCF project. There's other interesting things like the Open Policy Agent, and all of these are becoming fundamental building blocks for how you implement security. Rather than starting off and making a short list of vendors, you should start and look at what's your short list of open source projects that you can build on. And then obviously, as things get more complicated, you'll want to look at vendors, but that's definitely a new mindset for a lot of security practitioners.
Now, let's double click on this a little bit. The first question here is, what are important considerations as security teams increasingly now work in hybrid cloud environments?
Yeah, so hybrid cloud really broadens that landscape. So let's look at kind of the different functions that you need. First off, let's focus on securing your CI/CD pipeline. So you really need to build security across your build, run, and respond phases of that application lifecycle. As you're moving to the cloud, you need to make sure you're covering those posture management use cases. So is your S3 bucket publicly exposed? Have people had new root IAM privileges, those types of things. And then now everyone's getting audited all the time. So you need to make sure that you can pass a compliance audit at any point in time. On top of this, Kubernetes is the way to get into hybrid cloud environments. So we see a lot of customers running Kubernetes on-prem, running GKE, EKS, different environments. So a mixture of multi-cloud and hybrid cloud. Something that you really want to focus on there is making sure you can have unified policy across those different environments. And so the way you write a Falco rule should be the same for Kubernetes on-prem as it is for Kubernetes in the cloud. We're definitely seeing in our customer base, customers like Ginny, who's a German customer we work with, saying having that single pane of glass really helps developer efficiency and operation efficiency by over 25%. And then the last thing I really want to touch on here is SaaS. SaaS is key to hybrid cloud environments because you don't want to have to worry about using self-hosted security software. Since Sysdig is a SaaS product, all customers really need to do is worry about placing the agent. So a lot of people we're working with now are replacing existing products where they had 20 different installations of it across different environments. And with the SaaS product, you don't have to worry about any of that. Sysdig just manages it themselves.
Now let's talk about the shift left movement. Why is this not just a philosophy change, but in your view, an entirely new way of operating?
A customer a couple of years ago said this in a really nice way, where they told us, change management used to be my best friend. I could implement all my security controls there. It was a gate. And now with CI/CD platforms, really developers are in control of when the apps get deployed, what's baked in. And so whole functions of how you delivered software are now gone. And a lot of that security really needs to get baked into the areas where developers are operating and living. So your vulnerability reports should be within Jenkins. A developer doesn't want to go into another product, have to log in, generate some CSV. It should be in the tools that they're using. So shift left is really important, but you also need to kind of roll security right as well. 95% of the customers who are early on their journey that we talk to don't have things like an incident response strategy for container environments. And you definitely want to think about those things before something happens and you're going into fire drill mode there.
So going back to the topic I raised at the very beginning of our conversation, Knox, what are some of the specific questions security leaders really need to be asking regarding whether their security stack is ready for the modern cloud?
Yeah, I'd say the first question they need to ask is my security strategy not going to slow down my business? So that's something no one wants to be the blocker. Can they pass compliance audits at any point in time? Can they rapidly investigate events, remediate risk? Can I easily see across cloud and container environments where I need to focus? Containers are the new workload that's running in the cloud, where everything that's going to be your new compute source. So really getting a unified view into containers and cloud is something that's critical there. And then, is my stack built on open source? You don't want to have to be tied into a lot of proprietary things that won't work across cloud environments. So where does open source come into play in my security strategy?
Knox, we're seeing a convergence of cloud security and container security. How does this influence the offerings now available from cloud providers? And how should security leaders approach this new menu of offerings?
Yeah, on the cloud provider side, I think it's going to be interesting to watch how cloud providers look at multi-cloud. So a cloud provider will do a great job protecting the things that are happening within AWS or within Google or within Azure. But you need to make sure that you have unified detection and response across those clouds. And Kubernetes is really something that we're seeing lead to these multi-cloud deployments. On a strategy wise, you need to make sure that you're doing static scans of both containers and cloud environments to make sure you've hardened your infrastructure, you've hardened your applications, and that's a continuous process where you're always getting those types of updates. How do you have a unified strategy for container and cloud? I have a friend that works at Amazon, and internally they refer to containers as EC3. EC2 is where all the workloads are running now, but it's all going to move to containers over time. And so making sure that you have and you view containers as the new workload and then have that unified approach for also the cloud is critical there.
Knox, before we wrap up this conversation, tell me a little bit more about Sysdig. How are you helping your customers maximize their cybersecurity posture as they both shift left and embrace these new cloud environments?
Yeah, so I think one of the things I touched on earlier, us being a SaaS first platform really helps people get value quickly. So there's a case study that we have with WorldPay where because they moved to our SaaS platform, they were able to get value within days rather than months that they had previously worked with on the security vendor side. Built on open source, so you can write rules in Falco, directly bring them into the Sysdig platform. Your Kubernetes network policies will work there. And then we're really taking a secure DevOps approach and providing both visibility and security functionality. So as more of your DevOps team owns security, making sure that it's a single platform where they can cover all their cluster health the reliability, the performance, the compliance, and the security from one platform makes it much easier for your organization as a whole to embrace what Sysdig can provide.
Well said. Knox, thanks so much for your time and your insight today.
Awesome. Thank you.
Again, we've just been talking about, is your security stack ready for the modern cloud? You've just heard from Knox Anderson. He's VP of Products with Sysdig. For Information Security Media Group, I'm Tom Field. Thank you so much for listening in today.